or I mean, we're talking about her dad. What led us down a different path completely during this film? All of a sudden, Joan was, reminiscing or just
Recalling.
recalling. Yeah, I mean, she was recalling. Was it from these tapes, or what was it that kind of jolted her memory?
Well, it's I mean, our ambition in the film was to, I know what you mean by all of a sudden, but to lay down her psychiatric struggles, as she called them, her early demons that started from 5 years old on, with panic attacks and anxiety attacks, and the kind of light and dark that is a thread throughout the film. You see these kind of breadcrumbs along the way, that there is the outward Joan and then there's the inward turmoil going on. She appeared so grounded and confident on the outside, and the inside she was struggling always with paralyzing anxiety, anguish, all of it. And so by the time you get to the kind of family trauma, we hope we've kind of laid that down in some way so that it doesn't come out of the blue, although it is a big turn. And for us, it was important to represent the family story in that. So to lay down how Joan and her sister Mimi experienced it, how her parents reacted to it. And in that case, very lucky with the archive there that we did have to give voice to her parents as well, and use it that way. And so it was a big part of the film to figure out how to do that so that it had context and didn't completely overtake the story and not stay there. She did that work and then came out the other side as she described it. So, but it was a big challenge for sure.
I mean, was this an ongoing discussion? I mean, we have three directors. We have Joan, and there's a lot of other people. So there's, what was that conversation like? Like, do we want to take this next step? This is not a concert film all of a sudden. This is something completely different.
Yeah, I mean, I think we knew from the get-go that there was a cycle. I mean, you open up one letter or one journal or one drawer, and you know that there's a deep psychological story going on for her, through her whole life from the time she was young. So we always knew that was going to be a part of the film. And as it would be for anybody who's telling their full life story, there's complicated bits, harder bits. I think we were constantly struggling with how, where the balance of that in a film about identity, about aging, about memory, about a life, about music, about politics. There are so many, her life is packed with so many important things. And so we wanted to make sure that it was in the context of this creative, political, musical, human. Um, is that fair to say?
I think that was one of the biggest like challenges, was to just make sure that the psychological strand, was profound, but also didn't overshadow other parts. It had to be within context. It was very important to understand the family dynamic and meet everybody and contextualize the mom and dad and the sisters early on and have them as part a strand in the film, so that when they return, that we understand them, we know the situation, and so that was really important as well. It had to be nuanced. I mean, we spent a tremendous amount of time on that line, actually, and trying to make sure that it didn't take over, because of course it would have the tendency for people to be, as Karen said, it shifts immediately, and so it shifts gears. So it was just a big piece of work to keep it within context, and yeah.
And we did have many conversations with Joan about it. I mean, clearly it was her decision ultimately to reveal this part of her life that she had not talked about publicly before. It was a big decision. So we had many conversations with her about it. She was ready for all sorts of reasons too, largely also, as she's described it, she wanted, if she's going to do this film, she wanted it to be a kind of true representation of a full and complicated life. And so she wanted to, as she said, leave an honest legacy. And so I think because it was a team where she could, I think, had trust that we could handle that as well. But there were many conversations about it for sure.